Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm talking about some fragrances from MDCI. I've actually got 6 fragrances on my skin and I'm going to talk to you about them because I've just ordered the sample set from MDCI. I was really impressed. You have to contact them. There's a button on the website. You have to contact them if you have any questions and to place an order. So it's not just a case of clicking and buying. And the brand owner, Claude, got back to me within just 2 hours, I think. And then I got to make my selection of what I wanted. And here is the Discovery set. So it's €140 for the Discovery kit, including the shipping to the UK. €40 of that is shipping. Here is the main Discovery set. So it comes with this sleeve with the MDCI in gold. And then you slide it out of its sheath. And then you have this box here, which is cardboard. And then inside, your whatever you chose, you have in here. So I have 2 of the same because my friend Valentina is going to have one of these. And I have got Enlevement. This is the brand new Enlevement au Serail. So these 2 are the same. This is as yet not on the MDCI website. This is an older fragrance that was created by Francesca Bianchi for the brand in 2006. Then it was withdrawn, discontinued, and I believe that's because the formulation was no longer IFRA compliant. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that's what I read online. I think it might be down to oak moss. Again, that's just someone's opinion on Fragrantica actually, or someone's information on Fragrantica, whether it's real or not. Where they got their information from, I don't know. There is actually no oak moss listed in the original formulation. Anyway, moving on, we have Promise de l'Aube, which I just talked about in my last video, comparing it to Chanel's 31 Rue Cambon. And we have Nuit Andalouse. I have sampled this before, and it's a really gorgeous sort of kind of tropical beachy floral without actually going suntan lotion-y. A really gorgeous tropical, it's a tuberose fragrance, I would say. One that I can get on board with. Very much perfect holiday nighttime fragrance, very sexy. So they were my choices. These are all 11 mils and they are dabbers. So you have to unscrew the cap and you can dab. But I did also get a travel atomizer. I haven't brought it over. But yeah, they give you a travel atomizer with a little bit of MDCI branding on it. So you could put one of these into your travel atomizer. And they also sent me all these samples. So there are actually 7 samples. And I'm going to be talking about 6 of them today. Sorry, I've got possibly a cat hair or something on my eye. I've written notes and everything. I've done my homework. I've got my coffee. I've got a coffee machine again. I don't know if I ever went into the... I'm surprised if I haven't moaned about my coffee machine being broken because it's affected my heart for the last 6 months. It's been a matter of devastation. But the problem is I just thought I could somehow get it fixed. So I didn't buy a new one. But I didn't really know how to get it fixed. So I just sat there in, what do you call it? You know, when you're not moving. there's a word for it. It's not utopia, but you know what I mean. Sat there in inertia. I sat there in inertia without a coffee machine, dealing with instant coffee. And I tried coffee bags. Coffee bags are better than instant coffee for sure, but they're still not the same as a coffee machine. So I ended up buying a cheaper coffee machine. I've still got the other one, and maybe one day someone will just come along and fix it for me. And then I'll go back to using that one. But anyway, this is my coffee. I frothed up the milk, so it's lovely. 1 sweetener. Perfection. So let's get on with it. Where should we start? We are going to start with, I've got notes and everything, we're going to start with one I really like. Vepres Sicilien. Vepres Sicilien. I don't know if I'm saying it right. I'm doing my best here. Perfume is Jean-Marie Faugier. And it's on my left back of hand. I've even written that on here so I don't get confused. Left back of hand. I'm also wearing it as my main scent around here because it's probably my favourite of all of these 6. Note-wise, we've got tangerine, grapefruit, orange, pepper, lily of the valley, magnolia, cardamom, jasmine, ylang-ylang, rose, heliotrope, tuberose, orange blossom, osmanthus, raspberry, clove, prune, peach, musk, and vanilla. The note listings on these fragrances, I think they're too excessive in my opinion. I would prefer them to break them down to something a little more understandable, where we're more likely to be able to pick out some of these notes. There's just too many notes. In my personal opinion, I find that overwhelming and unnecessary. But anyhow, I've got it on the back of my hand. It's been on there for approximately an hour and 20 minutes, something like that. So I'm going to do a fresh spray on the paper just so that we can discuss how it opens. And this one, in a nutshell, what I loved about it actually, because I actually, before my shower today, I had a later in the day shower. I do that quite often. A later in the day shower, and before my shower, I did spray this on my wrist, and I had a few different MDCIs like I do now around my arms and wrists. But this was the one I was like, oh, I really like this. So once it gets far into the dry down, it's really musky, and I really love musk. As you know, I am a musk whore. And this one has a beautiful, sweet sort of fragrance, musky fragrance thing going on here. Not quite at that point that I fell in love with it this morning, but still, it's beautiful. So when you first spray it, it does smell citrusy, but it is not cologne-like citrus. It doesn't really go green and bitter, and it doesn't go... It's sharpish, it's definitely fresh, but it's sweetened at the same time. So it's not like a pure cologne when you spray it a normal, like a cologne, where it's just citruses, petitgrain, that sort of thing. It's very crisp and clear, and you can just tell it's a cologne. This has some of the elements of those citrus notes, but you can totally tell that there's some sweet things going on in here. It smells pink, fruity and fresh. So if I didn't know the notes, I would be guessing pink fruits and and there is raspberry, I think we said, didn't we? Yeah, there is raspberry. I would be guessing pink fruits like raspberry and grapefruit, and I would be wondering if there might be lychee, because it's got this sort of like peachiness. There's no lychee. There is peach though. So, but it's not really peachy. I generally don't enjoy peach. Although I can kind of tell it's there, and it does slightly feel like the peach of a peach scented shampoo, but it's just a tiny component of everything else that's going on in here. So it's sweet and musky. I'd say it's musky straight away, but it's the musk, clean musk. The clean musk really comes out and really shines in the dry down. It's quite fruity, but pink and orange fruity. Not too sharp, definitely does have a sharp freshness though. There's heliotrope in here, and I think that's worth mentioning out of these notes, because I do get a little bit of that sweet, slightly almond-like nuance that heliotrope brings, but it is not overdone. I find heliotrope can be a cloying kind of note. I've smelt fragrances that have heliotrope as the name of the fragrance. I can't remember the brands now. There's a more affordable sort of niche-ish brand that has a heliotrope fragrance, and it to me it's a bit cloying. Even though I like the smell of it, I also just find it sickening a little bit. And in here, the heliotrope is very gentle, and mixing with everything else just adds a very, very subtle hint of a sort of sweet almond-like thing without really being that noticeable. It smells clean floral. So we have magnolia. Magnolia to me is very much a clean white floral. It's like a creamy, quite chaste, non-sexy white floral. Makes me think of luxury hand soaps and hand creams and things like that. And I would say it does smell a little on the kind of clean hand soapy thing at the same time. So a little soapiness going on in here, but it's modernized by some of these sweeter notes and also those fresher citrus notes. I wouldn't pick out the osmanthus. I don't think it's particularly spicy at any point. So where is it on my left back of hand? Now I've smelt the fresh sprayed paper, I'm having trouble smelling what's on the back of my hand. It smells creamy and musky and clean. There's lily of the valley. I totally can get that. There's a tiny hint of like a greenness to the floral. Would I guess? I think I would guess the rose. I wouldn't guess tuberose. There's no unbridled, crazy, sex-starved tuberose in here. Sex crazy. Tuberose is sex crazy, I think. I don't get that from this. So I would say it's more of a clear. The florals are quite clean. There's nothing dirty. There's no indolics that I can pick up on. It's very much a clean yet slightly sweet nod to vintage floral musky scent, but with a hint of the modern because it's got a little bit of sweetness. Yeah, I like this one. I really do. It's really nice. It's my cup of tea, this. So that one was Vepre Sicilien, and it's taken me 12 minutes to get this far. We are one perfume in. Oh dear. Right, let's try and speed things up. Left wrist. I actually ended up spraying this one on both wrists accidentally. And it's, let's find it. And it's called Le Ravissant. And in this one's by Bertrand du Chauffeur. So I sprayed it on this wrist first. And then about 10 minutes later on this wrist. And actually I noticed straight, as soon as I sprayed it the second time, I noticed that the differences just in that 10-15 minutes really do show up, which says to me this is a perfume that is changing constantly. Even though it's not making big changes, it's something that is evolving. So Le Ravissant to me is, out of all of these, the closest to a typical fruity floral, in that it smells like it could go in a designer bottle. It smells more elevated than a typical mid-range designer. Like what comes to mind, Jimmy Choo, and I think that's because I'm getting a caramel note very subtly and not immediately. I'm getting a caramel note mixing with the florals, and it makes me think of Jimmy Choo. I think this one has pear actually. It has nashi, which is a pear note. That's probably why I'm thinking Jimmy Choo, because that also has a pear note. So pear, caramel. But this is not as syrupy sweet. It's not as synthetically syrupy sweet as a typical designer fragrance. It definitely smells elevated. It also reminds me a little bit, only from memory, and my guess is side by side it won't be that similar. It reminds me from memory of Atelier des Ors Ker de May. So which is another kind of fruity floral with some very sharp, fresh, citrusy type notes, grapefruit and the like. So this one has something called carambola, which is starfruit, and starfruit is supposed to smell fresh with a sour hint of citrus and green notes. So I totally can understand that. I've never smelt starfruit. I've never tasted starfruit. I don't know if I've even seen one in real life. I do get a sweet and sour feel from the first hit of the fragrance, and slightly green and citrusy. We've got pomegranate, nashi, which as I say, I think is like a pear note. I think it's like is it Japanese pear? You got pink berry, a caviar note. I'm afraid of anything that comes out of the sea. in terms of whether I want to eat it or not. The answer is I definitely don't want to eat it. So I don't eat anything like caviar, and I generally would avoid having it anywhere near me. So I don't know what caviar smells like, but my guess is it's from the sea, so it would be salty. And I think if it's in here, then it's not something you would expect. You're not going to pick it up. It might be like adding a sprinkling of salt into caramel just to add a nuance that you don't even necessarily pick up on. It's lemon, honeysuckle, osmanthus, jasmine, magnolia, ozonic notes, sandalwood, driftwood, white musks, marshmallow and vanilla. So it looks like they are going for, with ozonic and driftwood and caviar, they're going for something by the sea. Now, I haven't looked into the pictures that they're inspired by, so I think La Ravissant was one of the fragrances inspired by a painting, I think. And I haven't gone into that much detail because obviously we're now at 16 minutes. So if I start talking about the inspiration behind these perfumes, we're going to be here a long time, and you would have just switched off. So maybe there's a link there to the sea. Who knows? Again, all these notes, there's too many notes. And I just don't think we need all these notes. Woody notes would cover the sandalwood, the driftwood. I definitely get sweet and sour. I would say this is a sweet and sour, fruity floral. It smells pink again. It's definitely got a sharpness, but it smells almost slightly sugared. There is marshmallow and vanilla, so that makes sense. Like there's a sprinkling of sugar on here. I get pink berries. I can understand pomegranate. It's really pretty. It's very fresh, so it's quite summery, summer, but a little more generic than everything else that's here. Let's smell. It definitely goes sort of musky with a very light woodsiness. Yeah, and I get just a hint of the vanilla. Maybe more than a hint of the vanilla. Still get a hint of the sugariness, but in the dry down, I've lost a lot of that pink, sharp fruitiness. Now it is more like a marshmallow. It's quite soft, I think. I mean, there may be only one little spray from a sample, so I really can't talk about performance. I have a feeling this one might be quite soft after that first hour or two. But it's a very nice vanillic dry down. Vanillic with just a hint of wood, so you've got sweet and savoury together, which always is so appealing. Sweet and salty popcorn. I mean, case in point, Reese's Pieces. Let's not even go there. I like that one, actually. It's nice, but I think if you are chasing something slightly more interesting, you might feel like you've smelt something similar before. Next up then, upper left arm, I braved Ker de May again. Now, if you saw a recent live stream I did, I sprayed Ker de May on paper and I really didn't like it. You know, I found it almost foul. And then I was brave enough to put it on my skin anyway, because skin and paper can be so different. And actually, I do like it a lot more than I did on the paper the first time I smelled it. And it's up here now. And I think the reason I don't like it is mostly the galbanum. Galbanum's not a note that I enjoy. Let's talk about this first. Perfumers Patricia de Nicolai. Notes are bergamot, petitgrain, galbanum, blackcurrant, melon, rose, geranium, mimosa, black pepper, coriander, woods and musk. Now, all of these notes are not my favourites, and quite a few of them I really don't like. So galbanum, no, I definitely don't like galbanum. Blackcurrant can be a little bitter and green for me, depends how it's done. Melon, I absolutely do not like melon in a fragrance. No, thank you very much. Love rose, geranium, not so much, even though geranium is rosy. Geranium for me is very sharp, very harsh. It's like a very, It's often used to elevate a rose note because rose is so restricted. You can only use a tiny bit of rose in a perfume if you're IFRA compliant, which MDCI I believe must be. And geranium, yeah, geranium is a rosy scent, but I just don't really like it. It's very sharp. Mimosa is like a fluffy yellow pollen-y type smell. Quite enjoy it, but it can be a bit cloying in big doses. Love black pepper, coriander. Okay, fine, I don't mind it in small doses. Woods musk, yeah. So there's lots here that I generally don't actually enjoy that much. So it's no wonder I didn't enjoy it when I first smelled it. Actually, in the dry down, now we're talking, whatever it is, an hour and a half or something. It is a musky, woody, slightly green scent. It's clean, it's fluffy, it's almost fougere-ish. I think it's advertised as a female fragrance. I think this one is, in my opinion, slightly more masculine. Maybe not the opening. I don't know. Let's spray the opening. Un Ker de May. Un Ker de May. Is it a heart in May? My heart lies in May. My heart lies in summer. Where the hell is summer? God damn it. It's horrible out there today. It's awful. Yeah, on the paper, there's this bitter, it's the galbanum, I think it's the galbanum, but it's more than that. Something else is very bitter and a bit acidic. I don't know, it's like rotting vegetables. There's something I really can't get on with in this fragrance when it's on paper. Yeah, I don't know, it's like celery that's a bit ripe. It's really not good to my nose, but on my skin, and given a moment of time, it's much more palatable. But to me, it's unisex. I think it's slightly masculine leaning. I can pick up on the rose for sure. Maybe that's why it's in the feminine marketed side of things, but all the other things around it, I just don't like. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that. So that's Un Ker de May. So that's the left arm dealt with. Let's move on to the right. So the back of my right hand is Lassa. Oh, that's nice. Right, Lassa, here we are, is by Cecile Zarokian. We've got green accord, cardamom, bergamot, rhubarb, white flowers, rose, peach, freesia, violet, woody notes, musk, solar notes, patchouli and sandalwood. It's really taken over the air there. It's quite strong when you first spray it. It's a surprisingly strong fragrance, La Surprise. Now I remember thinking earlier when I sprayed this on my hand, and it settled. It had been in my hand 15-20 minutes. And it's got this rhubarb, so it's got a rhubarb note. It's got this really sharp bitter note or bitterness about it. And it actually made me think of not just rhubarb, but imagine you took a stick of rhubarb and you froze it. So it's got this iciness about it. So it's like the act of freezing the rhubarb would bring the actual smell of the rhubarb down. So the rhubarb's not as strong now, but you've got this iciness that is so sharp and bitter and bracing. So that to me is sort of how this fragrance did smell in the beginning. It definitely has a greenness. I don't think it's not purely green. I mean, you have the bergamot, you have the cardamom. I feel like the bergamot slightly oranges the situation up a little bit, if you know what I mean. I don't know if you know what I mean. It's like being outside. It's green, but you're not just in the woods, or it's not just grassy. It is like a garden with a few flowers, lots and lots of green stuff. A few flowers dotted around. It says white flowers. You've also got rose, freesia, violet. I'm not sure I find anything violet-y here, but definitely some different nuances of different floral notes. Freesia is something I'm not brilliantly familiar with. I remember Freesia air fresheners from when I was younger, and so when I pick up on Freesia, it just makes me think about the air fresheners, and I could kind of see that here a little bit as well. Yeah, it's more floral than I think I gave it credit for. It's 50-50 floral and green. It smells fairly natural. It definitely smells outdoors. It smells garden-like. I don't know that I enjoy it that much in the opening, but what it's gone down to on my hand, I do really like. There's no vanilla listed. I feel like I sense vanilla in here, not in a big dose, but I do think there's something like, I think there's vanilla in here. It is musky. There's musk notes. It says solar notes. I don't get anything like usually solar notes. I think they often used for salicylates, which is what give you that sunscreen type smell, sun lotion smell. Usually when they say solar notes, they often are talking about notes or something that smells a bit like sunscreen. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Do you know what? Maybe, yeah. I don't really pick up on patchouli. Do you know what? On the paper, it's not good. Maybe it's a Freesia. Something's making me think of toilets. So when I say toilet, I'm in the UK. When we say toilet, we mean bathroom, not the actual toilet. Just to make that clear, restroom. It does smell a bit like a restroom on the paper. On my skin, it smells beautiful, which is why you should always test everything on skin, even if you don't like it on paper. You could be surprised. Again, I'm saying the word surprised, and that was no pun intended. This is really nice. It's musky, sweet, slightly fruity. I don't think we've even got, well, apart from rhubarb, we don't have any other fruit notes, and we've got peach. In a similar way as what's the other one that I like? Vepres Sicilienne. I feel like I'm picking up on some similar notes in La Surprise. That's in Vepres Sicilienne. Like if there was heliotrope, there's no heliotrope listed in this one, but it wouldn't surprise me if there was a little bit in there. There's some stuff sweetening this up and giving it a slightly chewy, almost edible feel. This is really pretty. And this one actually smells a bit like pink marshmallows. And marshmallow was a note in the other fragrance, in Vepres Sicilienne. Yeah, I could smell something a bit marshmallowy in La Surprise. So there you go. I actually really like La Surprise. Further into the dry down on my skin, not so much. Don't love the opening, and particularly not on the paper. So if you're going to test any of these, stick them on your skin, all right? Now we're going to get on to really the star of the show, because this is a reformulated, brand new, I don't think it's even available yet, fragrance. And this fragrance was really loved back in the day before it got discontinued, and then people were desperately hunting it down. I didn't know anything about it. This is what I've only found out recently. And the reason that I inquired about this fragrance, so this fragrance is not on the MDCI website, but my fragrance friend Valentina said to me she'd already sent me Promesse de l'Aube. She'd already sent me some MDCI samples, including the Ker de May, the one that I didn't like, and Promesse. We just call it Promesse. And I tested Promesse, and I tested it a few times, and then I was like, wow, I actually really like this. So I messaged her and said, I'm considering buying Promesse, and she said, well, do the sample set thing, it's really good deal. And because when you buy the sample set, if you buy a bottle, they redeem what you paid for the sample set off of your bottle purchase. So, and then she said, before you order anything, they're about to come out with a reformulation of Enlevement au Serail, which she hadn't tried either, but she'd heard about. The original perfumer was Francesca Bianchi, but the notes used to be ylang ylang, mandarin, bergamot, jasmine, tuberose, wallflower, which I looked up, and it's basically a fantasy note. So it's the perfumer's interpretation of whatever a wallflower might be. And I don't know what a wallflower smells like. Rose, sandalwood, vetiver, vanilla, and patchouli. We've got it up here. It's been on my skin, as I say, for an hour and a half now at least. I wore this actually last night on top of fragrance I was already wearing yesterday. I was wearing Hush Hush, my fragrance, because it's now out on the crowdfunding thing. So I'm going to link that in the description below if you want to buy Hush Hush by Sarah McCartney collaborating with me. Then the pre-order crowdfunding is available now, so I'll link that below. But yeah, I was wearing Hush Hush yesterday, and then I went out to choir practice. Not even joking, I went to choir practice, and I put on this. I'd say out of all of them, this is the most vintage feeling. I'd actually say they all have a hint of vintage about them, but none of them are full on, this smells like it is an old perfume. But I would say this is the closest to being, it could be a vintage perfume. When you first spray it, there's a kind of sharp jasmine citrus combination with a little dusty dryness, dusty dry greenness. I think this has probably got oak moss, or I don't know if there's an aroma chemical that replaces oak moss, but I know you can use oak moss still. You can't use over a certain amount of it. So it's quite possible there's oak moss in here, but it was never listed on the original formulation note listing. Can you hear my cat snoring? A little interlude there, cat snoring interlude. Rose. Yeah, I can see rose here, but it's not the dominating factor. I would probably say it's more white floral than it is rose. Ylang, again, none of the florals really dominate, but when you know they're there, you can kind of pick them all out. It does smell a bit old, and I can smell something a little funky in here actually. Nothing to worry about. Just a hint of an animalic element to it. That could even just be the indoles from the flowers. So just a hint of a dirty musk, I guess, a slight dirty musk. It's that pillow. I always describe it like this: someone's pillow. Not really dirt, like the pillow's maybe been slept on for a few days, a week maximum, and the person's generally quite clean. They wash their hair every other day, but it's got that like musky sort of pillow. So I'd rather say pillow than scalp. I think that's slightly more pleasant. Pillow, but let's imagine it's a pillow with your lover, and it's comforting, and it's a nice dirty smell. I said to Valentina when I first smelled it that there's something about it that reminds me of Hera by Papillon. They're not that similar, but they're in that same ballpark. Hera is more voluptuous, more voluminous, more modern, I guess. And this isn't Hera. I find quite violety. I don't really get a violetiness from this. In fact, I don't think we have iris. No, and I don't know. It feels like iris should belong in here, but I don't think I really pick up on it either. I like this. It smells chypre-esque without being too chypre for me. So I don't love chypres. I don't have many chypres at all. It's just not my thing. Generally, chypres will dry down with quite a lot of oak moss. I'm not a big fan of oak moss. I like oak moss only in small doses. So probably I like the legal amount of oak moss, but I'm, you know, sticking to the rules. I don't like too much oak moss. Yeah, it does. It reminds me a little bit of Hera. It's not as strong. It's not as big as Hera. The florals are more subdued. Definitely smells oak mossy though. Now on my hand, on my arm in the dry down. It smells oak mossy. Have we got vetiver? Yeah, we've got vetiver. That makes sense. Sometimes I think oak moss and vetiver work really well together, and sometimes they're like that, and so you can't even necessarily tell one from the other. They just like really work together so well to make that kind of oaky, rooty, woodsy scent with a green hint. Really, really nice. It smells more floral on the first spray on the paper. Yeah, more rosy, but all the florals. It's really nice. I really like it. I'm looking forward to getting to know it. It definitely smells like oak moss to me. I think that's enough, isn't it? 38 minutes. I will edit it down hopefully to a bit less than that, but there you go. I've got more to come with MDCI because I want to talk to you about, I think I've spoken about Cho Cho San before at some point somewhere, but I've got a sample of that here, and I've got Enlevement to talk about as well. I want to do another one of these videos. Let me know if you want to see them. I'll probably get about 200 views on this video because it's so bloody long, but it doesn't matter because it's something that I'm interested in, and that's what matters, and some of you will hopefully enjoy it. Now I really am rambling, so I'm going. Thank you for watching. See you in another video.